Hello and welcome to today's video. We are going to talk about a very interesting topic. In Bolivia, a huge percentage of the people is actually indigenous, or they have indigenous roots. And therefore, there are a lot of traditions of indigenous people that are still being lived until today. And I am going to talk a little bit about some of these traditions in today's videos. We are going to visit a place that calls a lot of my attention actually, because for me it is something quite unique, something that I've never seen before. It is a very spiritual place. And well, I'm excited to maybe also get some questions answered there. We are now walking down one of the most famous streets here in La Paz. It is a very famous touristic attraction by now, and it is called the Witches Market. Actually, this market has not really anything to do with witches or witchcraft in general. It is more about traditions that are thousands of years old, and those traditions come from the indigenous people here in the area of La Paz or Bolivia. Actually, in Bolivia, there is a huge percentage of people that have indigenous roots, meaning that they obviously still live their old traditions. And here in this market, you can definitely see a lot of traditions. You can see a lot of places that sell things for offerings, for rituals of indigenous people, such as a fetus of a llama, which is probably the most shocking thing for people who are not used to seeing these things. But actually there's not really anything bad about these kind of rituals or the fetus that we can see here, because they are actually not being killed for these rituals. That would be against the ritual, because it is meant to give something back to La Pachamama, which is the Mother Earth, basically. So meaning if you would kill those animals for a ritual, that would kind of be against the nature. Therefore, they use dead animals that have died before. So they don't kill them, they were already dead, and then they use them for their rituals. These fetus of the llama, they come with a different price. Obviously, it always depends on the size of the llama. Sometimes they are only 4 months old, sometimes they are already almost born, basically. And the price varies between 60 up to 150 Bolivianos, which is more or less 9 to 20 euros. You can also find plates here that are completely ready for one of the rituals. For example, these plates come with sometimes with candy, sometimes with leaves of coca and amulets, sometimes with money even, and sometimes also with a fetus of a llama. These plates are sometimes burned and are being used for a ritual, for like an offer for the Pachamama, and it's meant to bring, for example, good luck. Or for example, people also do this when they buy a house or when they want to get married or something like that. They do these kind of rituals that are meant to bring them luck. So I've just been told that the llamas are specifically meant for a ritual if you want to buy a house, for example. It is meant for a ritual that will not only bring you luck, but it also will ensure that everything goes well with the house and so on. The llamas that you can see that have already been born, actually, those are way more expensive than the fetus. And it also depends on their size. They can cost up to 800 Bolivianos, which would be 100 euros more or less. Also here on this market, you can buy a lot of natural medicine. So medicine that the indigenous people have used since many years. And there are different kinds of medicines. You can find the leaf of coca here everywhere, basically. I've already mentioned that in other videos. It is meant to help you with the altitude sickness, for example, with a headache, with nauseousness, and so on. And there are also different kinds of medicines that help with your stomach, for example, with digestion problems. And also there are some syrups, I guess, or drinks that are meant to help you to find your loved one. That's like a love drunk, I guess, something like that. Very interesting to see what they have here on the market. A lot of very different things, very unusual things for a European person, obviously, but very interesting because it comes with a lot of tradition and a lot of history. Here in Bolivia, it is actually nothing unusual that people believe in those kind of rituals, and there are a lot of places where you can actually do one of those rituals. Not only in La Paz, but also in El Alto. There's actually a place that is quite famous where you can see a lot of little buildings where people offer these kind of rituals, and they offer kind of cleanings, I guess, of the spirit. It is quite interesting to see. You can see that in El Alto. I won't go there actually, but well, I've seen documentaries about it. It is quite interesting to see it. And well, something very unusual for us, but also something I think that is very interesting, very spiritual. I think it is great that people here live their traditions and are proud of them as well. I think it is very important. I feel like in a lot of countries traditions get lost, and here in Bolivia, since there are still so many indigenous people, I am happy that nowadays they are also proud of their traditions and that they can still live them until today. It hasn't always been like that. There has been a lot of discrimination here as well with the colonization of the Spanish in Bolivia as well, but this has changed in the last years, so I'm very happy that nowadays people are more proud of their origins actually. Now I am very excited to talk to you about a topic that is very interesting in my opinion, because we are going to talk about the Cholitas of Bolivia. Cholitas are the indigenous women here in Bolivia that wear traditional clothes. You can actually recognize them because they usually have long braided hair, and also they wear traditional clothes. They have dresses with skirts that are quite huge on the hips, and then they wear shawls and traditional shoes. Once the Spanish arrived here and tried to conquer Bolivia and colonized it, they discriminated the indigenous women by forcing them to put on these traditional clothes so that they were distinguished by the Spanish woman and also indigenous women. So they were easily being distinguished, and that was obviously a huge act of discrimination. So for a very long time, Cholitas were not even allowed to enter public buildings or public transportation. They were extremely discriminated until a few years ago, an indigenous president came into power here in Bolivia. And obviously, he was enforcing the rights of indigenous people. He was fighting a lot for their traditions and for their rights. And with that, the point of view of the Cholitas has completely changed. Nowadays, they actually wear their clothes with pride, and it is a symbol of their tradition. They want people to see their traditions, and they don't want their tradition to die out. So nowadays, actually, the Cholitas have quite an important role, and also nowadays they have a lot of more freedom. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a while, but now it's time to check out a little bit the clothes, and I will show you what exactly the dresses of the Cholita is made of. Here behind me are various stores that actually sell the traditional clothes of the Cholitas. They come with various parts. There are different parts of the clothes, and they come in all kind of different designs and colors. There are various different types of clothes, very beautiful dresses, very modern dresses also with a lot of brilliance and very shiny and in all kinds of different colors. But being a Cholita is actually nothing that comes too cheap. It is actually really expensive to buy a complete dress with the corset, with the pollera, which is the skirt, a hat, and also a shawl. And then there's also jewelry that comes with it, and shoes, of course. So if you want to buy all of that, I was just being told that it can cost you around 2,000 or 2,500 Bolivianos, which is more than 300 euros, which is insane. It is super expensive actually to buy one of those complete dresses. But also it depends on the tissue that you want to buy, and also of course on how it is made. All of those dresses are being handmade. And of course there are different variants, the more modern ones which are super colorful, and then rather traditional ones as well. But nowadays, Cholitas actually wear those clothes with pride. It is something that they are proud of and that they enjoy doing. They enjoy to show their culture, their traditions. As mentioned before, the traditional clothes used to be more a symbol of discrimination, but nowadays the status of the woman, of the indigenous woman here in Bolivia has completely changed. While earlier they weren't allowed to enter in public buildings or sometimes also public transportation, nowadays that is not a problem anymore.
On contrary, nowadays the Cholitas are being celebrated for what they do, and we are now going to see the famous Wrestling Cholitas, who are famous for celebrating their culture and heritage.
We are now at the place where we can see the Cholitas fight, the lucha libre of the Cholitas. I am very excited about that. So far, they are only the guys on the wrestling ring. That is how they start here with the men's wrestling. I honestly cannot wait to see the Cholitas come out. It is actually very painful to see the men already. It is all staged, of course, but it seems painful to be honest. This is the first wrestling show that I am watching, and we are here in one of the Cholas. them once. Now I'm going to take my seat and I can't wait to see the cholitas. The show has just finished and it was absolutely spectacular. I feel like this sport is quite hard actually. It must be a lot of training. It looked super painful, but all of the stunts are staged, so I'm not sure if it's actually painful or not, but it was absolutely spectacular. My first wrestling show and I enjoyed it a lot. I feel like the crowd was way more cherishing the cholitas than the guys that started at the beginning of the show. But yeah, the girls are doing an amazing job, seriously really great. I'm pretty sure it's way harder to do the sport with the dresses, with the skirts that are super wide, but they are doing amazing. I love this show, seriously.
Hello, what's your name?
Mi nombre artístico es Sarita Dulce Tentación.
I wanted to know since when you are part of the Wrestling Cholitas.
Yo soy la más nueva, estoy como un medio año más o menos recién, o sea, estoy empezando casi 7 meses más o menos ya llegando.
What is the motivation behind becoming part of the Wrestling Cholitas?
Más que todo las amigas, ¿no? Te vienen, te dicen, ¿por qué no lo haces? Un reto más o una manera de sobresalir acá en Bolivia también y demostrar la cultura boliviana.
What is the message behind the Wrestling Cholitas?
Bueno, más que todo, a mi país sería que siempre estemos orgullosos de nuestras raíces, estemos en donde estemos y más que todo a las mujeres sería que nosotros podemos con todos y podemos llevar 9 meses en el vientre a un hijo y poder traerlo al mundo sufriendo tanto dolor, podemos hacer muchas cosas más y podemos crecer más adelante también.
Muy bien, gracias. I'm very excited that I was actually able to talk to one of the girls, to one of the cholitas, and to get her point of view. I think the message behind all this is amazing. Like, you know, women can do anything that men can do. And now it's time to return to the city of La Paz. I am now back at the hotel, and on the way back I was processing what the Cholita told me, and I think the message that she had was a very strong one and a very important one, because she said that the motivation behind of all of this is, for example, to keep the traditions alive. I've told you at the beginning of this video that these dresses used to be a part of discriminating the woman here in Bolivia, basically, the indigenous woman. And today they walk outside in their dresses, completely dressed up, being proud of their origin, being proud of where they come from, of their roots. And I think that is a very important and beautiful message there. And also I love the message that the women are trying to fight for their rights, basically. They are demonstrating that women can do whatever they want to, that there are no limits, and yeah, that you can definitely do whatever you believe in. So for me, this is a wonderful message to end this video today, and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned a few new things. For me, this was definitely completely new and something very beautiful, that's for sure. I love traditions, and I love that here in Bolivia there are still very old traditions that are being lived until today. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, I would highly appreciate your support. Leave me a like and also subscribe to my channel, because I am not yet done here in Bolivia. I'm going to show you a little bit more of the country. I hope to see you in the next one.